Hello, good evening. My name is Mudiaga. I'm presenting my presentation for assignment 2. Initially, my topic was cybersecurity governance challenges in globally outsourced cloud migration projects. But when I got the instruction from the instructor, Dr. Stella George, and the two peer review, I was asked to add more into risk management. Hence why I changed the topic to project risk management in globally outsourced cloud migration projects. So I'll start with my outline. The first one is why this topic matters, research questions, literature review methodology, major project risk in outsourced cloud migration, governance challenges, current project risk management approaches, comparative analysis of risk management approaches, alternative governance frameworks, future research directions, project management perspective, reflection and conclusion, then references. Firstly, why this topic matters. Organizations are increasingly moving most of their applications to the cloud, which means there are so many risks involved when it comes to cybersecurity risk. So these are why this topic matters. Outsourcing introduces multiple project risks beyond technical implementation, ineffective governance and risk management, comprehensive project risk management. Cybersecurity is one critical risk among many that must be managed throughout the project lifecycle. Then research question, what are the questions that inherent in when you're trying to move your projects to the cloud? The first one is why project risks are most prevalent in globally outsourced cloud migration projects. How does cybersecurity governance help mitigate this project risk? What governance and risk management approaches are most effective? This study focuses on risk management as a core component of project management in outsourced cloud migration. Then we'll go to literature review methodology. What are we looking at? We're looking at the IEEE Explore, ACM Digital Library, Science Direct, Spring Link, and Google Scholar. The keyword used are project risk management, cloud migration, outsourcing, cybersecurity governance, vendor risk, and third-party risk. Then inclusion in criteria is the peer-reviewed articles published between 2020 and 2025, cloud migration and outsourcing, information systems and project management. So what we actually excluded was it must not be, we must ensure that it must be in English. Now, we looked at 196 records identified, 56 records restrained and key papers included. Now, what are the major risks in outsourcing? We look at the cybersecurity risk, communication risk, compliance risk, vendor risk, cost risk, and schedule risk. These are things that actually affect outsourcing when you want to move your project to the cloud. The key takeaway is security and compliance risk can lead to data breaches and regulatory penalties. Vendors and communication risk affect alignment, performance, and project outcomes. Then we have this cost and schedule risk can impact budgets, timelines, and business continuity. So these are the major risks. Then we'll now go to governance challenges. Vendor coordination, when you look at different geographic time zones, someone in Brazil, someone in Netherlands, someone in Africa, it looks at those. Then we have communication and collaboration. When you look at language barriers, people speaking Portuguese, people speaking Spanish, people speaking French, you need to look at those ones as challenges. Then you look at regulatory compliance, when you look at the GDPR in Europe, other regions have their own different compliance regulations. So it actually is a challenge as well. Then you look at scope and change management, data security and privacy, stakeholders. So for every project, you must carry your stakeholders along. So if you don't carry them along, it becomes a challenge in it. Then let's look at the current project risk management approaches. Look at vendor risk assessment. You must assess your vendor in terms of having questionnaires, doing due diligence and security audits. Look at project governance structures, establish committees, escalation and mechanism. Look at zero trust in terms of identity, access, and network security frameworks. That's very important. Look at SLA and contract management. So for every project, there must be an SLA. between the project managers, all the people involved, the QAs, the stakeholders. There must be an SLA for us. It starts like a grinding principle, like a constitution for every project to be successful. There must be continuous monitoring and reporting. These are the approaches that we need to. Then we need to look at comparative analysis and risk management approaches, vendor management practices, the strengths, improve accountability and reduce key risk. Look at zero trust architecture. Look at SLA governance. Look at ISO 27001, which is enterprise risk management. The whole focus is about risk management. You look at CISA cloud control matrix because we are looking at clouds. So you look at how to mitigate this risk. Then let's look at alternate governance framework. Look at the PMBOK, ISO 31000, the 27001, the ITU4, COVID and CC Cloud. These are areas that you need to focus on in terms of key focus areas, project governance, risk identification, cloud security controls, service governance. So no single framework addresses all these projects. So I'll take you back to my place in Africa. We say we don't have one entry and one exit into a marketplace. You look at Walmart, you have two entry points and two exit points. But back home in Nigeria, we have so many exit points and so many entry points, which is actually a risk as well. So, like I say, there are different entry. So there's no one way. You should look at different. That's the essence of having the previous skills, that there are different ways for you to do it. So we now look at future research directions, looking at the AI and machine learning for risk prediction. We can use AI to predict in terms of risk inherent in every project, adaptive government models, dynamic governance analytics, automated compliance and audits, governance for agile class projects. We're looking at the agile methodology, integrated project risk dashboard. Future research should bridge cybersecurity governance with enterprise project management. Then we look at project management perspective, connecting the to computer 605. Quality management for every project, there's a quality assurance. Stakeholders management, you must carry all your stakeholders along. Change management, for every change in every project, it must be documented. Then risk, you must look at risk, identify the risk, assess and mitigate risk across technical, vendor, and business areas. Then you must define your scope, then ensure timely and transparent information flow. Holistic project management approach drives secure and successful cloud migration outcomes. Reflection and conclusion. Outsourced cloud migration projects involve complex and interconnected risk. Cybersecurity is critical, but must be managed alongside other projects' risk. Strong governance, vendor management, communication, and compliance. Existing framework provide valuable guidance, but should be integrated. So key takeaway, successful outsourced cloud migration depends on comprehensive project risk management, cybersecurity governance, vendor management, compliance, and continuous monitoring that work together to ensure project success. So these are the references. I did more about 8 references before now, but because I looked at the risk part, I added like 3 more references. So I'll be looking forward to answering your questions. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you've been able to learn a bit about what the risk is involved in moving projects to the cloud and how to ensure that you mitigate against those risks inherent and for you to have a successful project management on moving your applications to the cloud. Thank you, and I look forward to having your questions. Thank you.